Hi, welcome to Holistic Lifestyle Medicine. I have been here making videos on all topics to do with lifestyle medicine, meaning living in a way that becomes our medicine. And while lifestyle medicine can touch upon things like food and diet and sleep, to me, lifestyle medicine, although it's a very modern terminology, and we just use it as a pointer to something that is actually way deeper than diet and water and sleep and journaling. Lifestyle medicine for me, through my own lived experience in this last decade, is living in a way that is aligned to the intelligence of our body, this body that is actually a part of a greater cosmos. So, living in alignment with the cycles and the rhythms of the cosmos. So, when we start to acknowledge that this body is actually not separate from the nature, from the environment, from the seasons, from all the elements, wind and sun and moon and trees and birds and what have you, like all the phenomena around us, is constantly in exchange with this body. When we breathe in, we're literally breathing the air from outside into our body, and then we're releasing the air from inside our body back into the environment. So we're constantly in exchange, although I don't like the word transaction, but we're kind of transacting with the environment constantly. We're feeding our body with food which grows under the sun, and needs water from the clouds. So we're like our very survival depends, and not just survival, our thrival or thriving depends upon everything in nature to work in its intelligence. And so when nature works in its intelligence and our body honors that intelligence, and we live in a way that honors that intelligence, we start to live by natural design, or the design of this body, which was designed to live in, as I said, in honor of the rhythms and cycles, seasons. And so the modern epidemic of acute illness, chronic illness, loneliness, depression, anxiety is really symptomatology, uh, because we're not living consciously, we're not designing our lifestyles consciously to live in alignment with nature, live in alignment with the rhythms and cycles of nature. What happens why do we start to feel so well when we are living in alignment with the natural rhythms, the natural cycles of nature? For example, in winters, like slowing down your body, eating warming foods, sleeping, with sunset, rising with sunrise, moving our body, honoring when it's your own internal seasons as well, not just outside seasons. So resting when your body is going through a phase, which is a big lesson for me, because I'm constantly still conditioned, quite a bit conditioned, to move at the pace of the capitalist model. And so resting when our body needs rest, honoring when it's fatigued or exhausted or burnt out, being gentle with ourselves. So when we're honoring our own internal cycles, the external cycles, and living as per the rhythm of nature, what happens is that we start becoming more and more embodied. So the reason why we feel well is because we become embodied. And that was the topic of this was all a little bit of an introduction into introducing embodiment through this video. Sometimes when you're trying to explain something, rather than try to explain embodiment, I thought I'll start with trying to explain the opposite of embodiment, so that embodiment starts to make very clear sense. To me, the opposite of embodiment is disassociation. So what is disassociation? Disassociation or fragmentation, they can both be used together, is a state of living where we're living completely conceptually from states of mind. So we're like living in thoughts, in anticipation of the future. We're living in rumination of the past. We are living through our various psychological identities. You know, we have lots of, you know, parts within us. You know, so we're like experiencing reality, but we're experiencing reality through the filters of the mind. We're really here, like constantly here. So when we're just walking around with this physical body, but we're really not experiencing the body. We're really just experiencing everything that is going on over here. So to me, so that is a disassociated state of living. I'm not saying thinking is not important or it's unnecessary, and conceptualization and uh, you know, some sort of sometimes thinking about the future, or even going back into the past a little bit, serves its purpose, but not at the cost of embodiment. So disassociation, or you know, living entirely through our minds, through our head, through conceptualization, is a result of early trauma. You know, as children, or you know, we, most of us have had unsafe environments. We've had, you know, parents or teachers or relatives that have been dysregulated themselves. Their nervous systems have been dysregulated, and so we have not experienced safety in our bodies. This is such a key. This is fundamental. Like, this is key. This is everywhere. Like, most of us, 99% of us, I would say, would have experienced some level of, I mean, even more than 99. I would say there'd be a very rare person that has had a very regulated childhood or a very regulated upbringing. So what happens is when this body-mind organism, as a child, learns that it's not safe to be in the body, because we're surrounded by adults that are dysregulated, abusive, unpredictable, cannot nurture us. It's literally like being here in this body feels unsafe if someone is, you know, being abusive, whether verbally, physically, however. So yeah, so then we literally get so into our heads, because that's the only place that feels safe, because the present moment, the present reality around our parents, teachers, relatives is not safe. So we cannot be in the present moment around these people as children. And when you cannot be around adults without feeling unsafe, you have to escape. You can't physically escape, because as a child, you're dependent on these adults. You have to live with them. You're dependent on them for food, shelter, clothing. And so, so what happens then is what we all commonly know as flight response, fight response, freeze responses, fawn responses. Our nervous system gets highly dysregulated, and we learn to really go into our heads to cope by overthinking, overanalyzing, creating strategies of how to stay safe, you know, predicting the future, ruminating about the past. Literally, all of this is a coping mechanism to deal with the reality that we're essentially feeling unsafe in the present moment in our bodies. And so that's disassociation. And literally, when that has happened all through our childhoods, we grow up into adults with the same disassociation, and we can pretty much live our entire lives as adults, disassociated and fragmented. So when I started to work on my body healing, my mind healing, like nearly a decade ago after the birth of my daughter, um, you know, and it's been like years and years, and cyclically my nervous system goes into these periods when it like sheds and clears out the charge that was stored, which couldn't be cleared, like experiences that couldn't be digested as a child because they were so overwhelming. As I have cleared the charge out of my body, really, and literally, really the only way to do this is to really go through and sit with the experiences we couldn't really feel as a child. We had to suppress them to cope, to survive. So as my body over years and years has released those experiences, digested those experiences, and integrated those experiences, what I have noticed is what we call embodiment. So more and more of an arriving into the body. So where I did not feel safe in the body, I now more and more feel not only safe in the body, but like a sense of like an aliveness in the body, and a sense of vitality in the body, a sense of interconnectedness with all of life. And this, and so then primarily, I can have periods of disassociation. I can have periods like still when I'm releasing charge or I'm triggered. I can still go into my old mechanisms, coping mechanisms of overthinking and the nervous system, getting triggered. But by and large, my experience of life has started to become more through the body and less through here. And this was meant to be our original design. Just like the animals, just like the birds, this body is an animal body. We were meant to be sensing, breathing creatures, so like when we walk, when our foot lands on the soil or on the gravel on the road, we can feel all the undulations, all the gravel or the contours of the road as our foot lands on it, and our foot is meant to grip. That's just an example, because in these last few weeks I've been increasingly feeling the solidity of my foot on the ground. I'm not like floating when I walk. I'm like literally gripping. My foot grips, and I feel each toe and the sole of my feet as it lands and as I walk. And I can kind of, the imagery that comes into my mind is really of animals, of, the big cats walking with their paws. um, and it's just, as well as hands, like hands feeling textures and fabrics, like leaves, feeling it, like when something touches the hand, it feels alive, and the hand feels alive, the body feels alive, because it's fully like in the moment, experiencing phenomena through the senses. So that's really what embodiment will start to feel like. The more we clear out our trauma, the more we regulate, like the more, not regulate, but the more the nervous system heals, the more that we feel safe in the body, the more embodied we become. The more embodied we become, the more present we become. The more present we become, the more juicier and more creative life gets, because we are in the present moment, and all creativity, all juiciness is always in the present moment. It cannot be anywhere else. So that's embodiment. It's being in the body. It's being fully in the body, in this body. Feeling this, feeling the temperature, feeling the wind on the skin, feeling the sun at the back of the neck, the midday sun. When rain falls on the face, you can feel the little drops, because when we're in the body, we're fully experiencing life through the senses, not through thought, not through concepts, not through identities, not through, ego, the ego mind. The ego mind stays, it's there in the background, but there's more of an appreciation of what it is like to be in this animal body. And so really the journey of living consciously, designing our lifestyles consciously, which is living in rhythm and cycles, living in honor of the intelligence which is already in this body, already all around us. When we start to do that, we start to become less and less disassociated, more and more embodied. And isn't that an amazing, amazing journey to come back into what was always going to be our natural design? It's just that it got disrupted because of, how humanity so far has been. Like, we have so much ancestral trauma coming through our lineage because of what humankind or mankind has experienced over eons. It all carries through the generations. And so when we break the cycle, when we become the first one in the family to break this ancestral cycle, break this perpetuation of karma, ancestral karma through our lineage, and we become embodied, it is the most radical act we can do today. It's the most courageous act we can do today. Um, Act is not really the right word, but it's the more, making the decision that I'm going to break this, break the patterns of my lineage. I'm going to break the patterns passed down to me through my karma, through my ancestral karma. And I'm going to learn and remembering that it's not even learning, it's a remembering. I'm going to remember what it is like to be an embodied human. And so that's why we do lifestyle medicine. That is why we learn about lifestyle medicine. So that's why it goes way deeper than food and lifestyle and sleep and journaling. And yeah, it's lifestyle medicine is the intelligence of the cosmos. Lifestyle medicine is intelligence of the body. And so it's coming back into remembering that this is already intelligent. The cosmos is already intelligent. We have forgotten. We have forgotten. We have gone so far away from this natural intelligence. We have gone so far away from the rhythms and cycles of nature. And that we've just lost the feeling of being in this body. And that gives rise to all sorts of diseases, illnesses, psychological disorders. And so really, it's all beautifully connected. The more embodied we become, actually, let's go a step back. The more consciously we live, the more consciously we design our lifestyle, the more we live as if it's our medicine, the more we heal. The more we heal, the more embodied we become. The more embodied we become, we cannot have diseases and illnesses and psychological disorders when we are in the body. Illnesses, diseases, psychological disorders are a symptom of fragmentation, are a symptom of disassociation, are a symptom of held trauma in the body. And so then the more embodied we get, the more alive and well we are. The more alive and well we are, we cannot take any decisions or any actions that hurt the planet, the climate, the environment, our fellow human beings, our fellow creatures, birds, animals, because we start to feel this oneness with all of life, this reverence for all of life, because we've come back into the body. And so then embodied people, embodied human beings, will only act for the well-being of all. And so then embodiment becomes not only a personal journey, it's not something we do for ourselves. Embodiment is something we do for everyone. We do it for the collective. We do it for all of humanity, for the planet, for all creatures. Thank you.